Kia ora folks, let's have a look at some of the things I talked about in my most recent workshops. I'm going to start first of all with Classroom. So if I jump across to my Classroom, I highlighted a few updates you may or may not have seen. So the first one was the school analytics, which is when I click into this, it will give me an overview of the analytics of my school. Now I can see this as a school leader, the entire school. So if you have those capabilities, if you have been added to that group, then you'll be able to see the entire school. Now you can see in my school, my students haven't been doing a lot of work, but that's because I haven't given them a lot of work to do over the last little while. But I can click down the bottom here into class, into student, into organizational units. So that is the school analytics. Now remembering, you'll only get that if you are an admin. So if I go back to my classroom, and I go back to my demo class. When I open my demo class, you'll see there is also an analytics link up in the top right. If I click into my analytics for my class, I can see the students in my class, I can see assignment completion, missing assignments, average grades, and weeks since active. Now I can choose to see that for the entire year if I want to as well. So each teacher can see this. Only admins can see the overall view of the school. So if you haven't seen that, have a look at your analytics for your classroom page. It's something that's done in the background, it's powered by AI, and it means that it takes some of that work away from you as a teacher. Let's automate what we can. Now, another admin feature is the visit a class ability here. Now what that means is I can visit a class at my school. So I can search for a teacher, I could search for a class. So if I said maths, for instance, it would search for a class called maths. If I'd searched for a teacher, it would come up with the teachers that are in my class, in my school, and I could then jump into their class. Now, what it means is, if I click this learn more, what it means is when I jump into a class, I have temporary access to that class. I can then add a co-teacher. If it's a class where the teacher has left, I can remove all the students and archive that class for them. If it's a teacher who's away, I might want to add a co-teacher or add a relief teacher to that. So as an administrator, you can see down the bottom here, you can visit a class. Now the person whose class gets visited gets an email to say, Steve visited your class today. So it's not a sneaky round the back door way of checking up on people. It is about visiting a class to support in your role. So this help page here and the workspace admin help talks all the way through about what you can do. Okay, so that is visit a class. It is the ability to visit a class, either to drop in a co-teacher, drop in a reliever, or to help out if, say, the teacher's away, drop some relief in for them. So that is visit a class. And you'll see that sitting up the top here. Now those are two Workspace for Education Plus features. Now when we're chatting to our New Zealand schools, if you're a state or state integrated school, that upgrade is paid for by, is covered by the ministry. So it's fully funded by the ministry. Therefore, if you don't see these, also if you don't see the resources tab, then you must not have your license assigned or you haven't been upgraded yet. So talk to your IT provider if you need any more help with that. So in our resources tab, we have practice sets and we have video activities. Practice sets, if I jump into one here, are I guess kind of smart worksheets we could talk about here. However, they're not just a worksheet, they are a area where students can do their work. They can type answers in here. If I have a look at how it looks like for a student, they can also get help when they need it. So practice sets live inside Google Classroom in the resources page. I'll show you one other place you can find them in a moment. So if we have a look at this practice set when it loads, so this is how it looks for a student. So I can simply click into here and I can type an answer. If I have a stylus or a touchscreen Chromebook or a touchscreen device, I can do some work in here. And there we go. So you'll see there that the AI is actually reading my handwriting as well. So that's where I put my answer in, but also I can click down here and do that here in my workspace, in my space for work. Okay, so that's where I can put my working. Up here is where my answer goes. Right, I am going to jump back into here. I'm going to grab my eraser and get rid of all that. There we go. Now, if I have my touchscreen on my Chromebook, which I do, or I have a touchscreen on my device, I might jump into here and I could go 2x minus 4 is going to equal, let's say, 3. Now you'll see it checks that as a 3. Do a quick check. Now, if I don't get it right, because I just randomly had a guess, you'll notice that a little light bulb is showing up here. If I click that, it's going to show me a hint that my teacher has given me. So practice sets allow kids to get help when they need it. Okay, without having to put your hand up. If there's no one where you're doing your homework to ask, you can get some help here as well. Now I'm going to jump backwards and have a look at back over here, back over my practice set here. Now this is viewing as a teacher. If I click edit, you'll see the edit tools that are available here. Now I've put my question in, I've put the answer in. The practice sets have scanned what I've done and identified a skill. And what they will do is they will suggest some hints down here, some resources. Now I can reorder these if I want. So if I want this one to show first, or I want my little card to show first, I can add a YouTube clip. I can add a how to do it card, and practice sets will add these automatically for you. If I don't like those, I can actually go edit my hint and I can put a new one in here, then solve. So that one that I've typed in, or it could be a link to a doc. I can put anything in here I wanted to that has a link, or I can just type some stuff in. So that's what it looks like for an educator. If I want to add a question, I can do a new question, or I can import a question. So if I click the import, I can actually import from PDFs. I can import from Google Forms as well. So lots of things I can import into my practice set. I'm done editing, and it will save inside my resources. Okay, so done there. If I jump back, here's my resources page. It's sitting inside there. I have my 3 dots. I can grab a share link and share that with someone else at school. I can make a copy of it. I can move it to trash. The other one here is our YouTube interactive questions. So this is where you can add a YouTube clip to your classroom and then add some questions to it. So you see I've got my YouTube clip at the top here. My details, I can choose how long I want that video to run for, because this is actually an R35 video, but I only want to see the first 3 minutes of that video. Here's some text, and then I can add some questions in here as well. Just simply going add multiple choice question. Okay, so that is YouTube interactive questions. Now, if I go try as a student and I open this up, you'll notice no ads at the beginning.
As ground-based technology
and when I get to the end,
we stop
jump right
painting
back to where I'm
surface
ending.
scenes with our
When we get back to the
imagination.
end, also there is no suggested videos. And if you have YouTube turned off for your students, this will still work. And then if they click YouTube, they can't get out to YouTube because it's turned off by the school. So that is in your admin console. You can switch off YouTube for students, on for teachers. So those are 2 things that sit here in the resources tab. Okay, now I'm going to jump back to my classes. I'm going to jump into my class here. Now, when I want to add any of those resources, I'm going to go classwork. I'm going to go create, and I'm going to go assignment. Okay, classwork, create, assignment. You'll see on the bottom here I have YouTube, practice sets, and read along. So those are the 2 we just looked at, and we'll look at read along in a moment. If I click YouTube, I can choose to drop in just a YouTube clip to watch. If I'm doing a study on photosynthesis, I can choose just to drop in the video, and again, no ads, no suggested videos. I can just go add video, or I can go add questions, and then I go in and create my video activity. Now, if I also want to if I want to add a practice set, click here, create a new one, or use one of the ones I've already done, or search for any of the resources that are available to me as well across my domain. The last one in here is read along. Read along is our AI powered reading tutor. So read along inside of Classroom allows you to give students books to read. It will also create a reading report for every student once they read 4 books, looking at speed, accuracy, the level they're reading at, any questions any sounds or words they had problems with. So we can choose either leveled reads or decodables to give to our students, or brand new, we can actually create our own book. So we can enter a title, enter some text. It will take about 40 odd minutes, and then it will appear in your reading material. So you could create your own story. You could drop in a local story. You could write one about some kids in your class in the local area. So a really nice way to bring stuff in that is relevant to your students or to your area. So that's Read Along, which sits here. Okay, really amazing tool. The other great thing about Read Along is that with its integration with Classroom, if I decide that I want to give a certain book to a certain group, I can grab one of my decodables. Let's let those load. And then what I can do, so I can either choose between my leveled reads or I can choose my decodables. Okay, so here are my leveled reads, looking at Lexile levels. Here they are. If I want to choose my decodables, I'll click into that tab. If I'm looking at, we can see the different consonants, the different endings that are in there. If I want to look specifically at homophones, I'm going to choose this book. Now, I can then choose whether I'm going to go read aloud mode, where I read to Dia, or silent reading, where I listen to Dia read to learn that story first. Okay. Now, when I attach that, I'm going to attach it to that Classroom assignment. Now, over on the right-hand side, I can either choose all students or I can choose groups. So blue group might get this book. Green group might get another book. So I can differentiate that book by across my class as well. Give it a due date, add a topic to it. I'm probably going to add that to my reading topic, so I can select all the data in that by topic. So that's a look at a bunch of the things I talked about in Classroom. So I'm just going to go out of that assignment now. I'm just going to go back to my waffle on the right-hand side here, and I'm going to jump into Gemini. Okay, second piece, we're looking at Gemini now. You'll notice I have my school account switched on, so this is what it looks like for you in your student account. Down the bottom, we have a very important feature, which is our little shield showing that we are data protected. So a couple of things I highlighted inside in our workshops. One was getting Gemini to have a persona, so act as the lead character in the book, The Beach, and explain how your feelings change throughout the book. Use specific locations and time references. So now Gemini is talking to me as the person in the book, and I can ask questions. Remembering this is available for students 13 and above. So secondary school students can be doing exactly this thing to help learn a bit more about a book study. A couple of the other things I looked at was, the ability to create an image. So here we go, create some images of dogs that we might want there, or tiger chasing a butterfly for that kid that wants that for their story or as a reading prompt. And also an image looking out the window of a plane flying over Auckland. So you can create as many of those images as you want. We've talked about things like marking against a rubric. So here is an essay, here is a PDF that was attached. Please mark the response against the marking rubric. It's marking against that rubric there and giving me some feedback. Really great as a check marker. Or if you've done your 10 essay marks, you want to have a quick moderation, jump in there. If we want to find an angle of something. So what I've done, let me just zoom this. I have dropped in an image, and then I've said, can you tell me how to find the angle marked I, which is in the middle there. And Gemini then goes through and tells me how I can find that. So we can drop an image in and ask a question about it. And Gemini will have a look at that image and give us that feedback. Okay, let's zoom that back out again. Now, the other two really amazing things that I highlighted was Canvas. And Canvas is your creation tool. So what I've done with Canvas is I have said, can you make me a drag and drop quiz for names of elements in the periodic table, the first 20 elements? Now, I must have been typing this very fast because you can see I've made a heck of a lot of spelling mistakes, but it has still created me that little resource. So what it's done is it has created the code in the background, and here is my fully working drag and drop periodic table quiz. So if I'm looking for Ca, I know that's calcium, I can drag and drop that on there. If I know that Al is aluminium, where's aluminium? There it is. So I can use this as a drag and drop study guide or learning guide as well. I can then check my answers and it shows me I've got all three of those correct. So that was all I did. I gave it a really simple request in natural language. I then said, can you highlight in green the correct answers and give me a score? And then it's come back again. Now, if I want to use that with my students, here is a great little tip. If I go to code and I then jump into here, I'm going to go Control A and Control C. So I've copied that code. Jump over to a Google site. Let's go into there. I then go over here to embed or double click and embed. I'm going to grab the code. So I copied it from the other page. I'm going to paste that in. It will paste in the code. Next. You'll then see what comes up is exactly that thing that was in Canvas. Insert, resize the window, and there is that interactive tool I just created with Canvas. Now, when you have this in your Google site, this is fully active for students to use as well. So if I have a look at what it will look like, so here's my interactive that sits inside here for me to use. Okay, so I can drag and drop the answers around and it works just as it did over on Canvas. So inside of Gemini, Canvas will help you to build lots of things. This is one example of something you can build in Canvas. This is my school account. This is in the no-cost version of Gemini. So that's Canvas. Now you'll notice I've built something in Canvas here, which is an interactive quiz on Lord of the Flies. Okay, same sort of deal. I've gone through and asked a whole lot of things and then asked for a few little iterations. I've created my Lord of the Flies quiz. I can then grab the code. I can then drop it into a site. Okay, so Canvas, super useful tool. It sits down the bottom. If I go new chat, sits down the bottom here in my prompt window. Down there with Canvas, right beside it is the other cool tool I want to have a look at, which is Deep Research. Deep Research is your research assistant. So I have asked Deep Research to create me a list of local grants available to state schools in Auckland, New Zealand who are looking for supports of both STEM and sports groups. How and where do the schools apply? Deep Research will give me what it's going to do. I edited that and gave it some feedback. Then I said, this looks good, please go ahead. Now this took about 14 minutes. It goes and scours the internet and comes back with a report for me. That report looks like this. So here are my local grant opportunities, some intro, some different STEM groups, some different supports for STEM groups, different scholarships that I can apply to. Some other ones here we're looking at for sports. Then I have a table of that information. I can just click export to sheets, as you can anywhere in Gemini. You can export direct to sheets if it's a table, or to docs, or to Gmail. Some other relevant funding sources through here, and these are the sources that were used, that it read for me and then came back with my report. So what we can see here is we have a report that gives us all the information that we can now go ahead with. Now we could do a deep research for this sort of thing to find some funding. I've also done one that was around New Zealand volcanic eruptions for my level 1 geography class. Okay, so I've asked it for a report appropriate for 16-year-olds studying geography in New Zealand. The topic is the impacts of volcanic eruptions, impacts on the land and the people, give New Zealand case studies. So it's come back with that research for me, impacts on the land, impacts on the people, case studies. Again, I can send this out. It's going to show me where it's looked at for these with that little link there. You'll also see some of those drop downs that are there. So it will give me some more information of where I can look. Tarawera, Ruapehu, Whakaari White Island, monitoring positive aspects. So it's come back with a really good report. Now this realistically is my case study information for my level 1 geography class. And that's taken about 15 minutes to create. It hasn't taken me all weekend sitting on the at my desk with my laptop. The sources used, here's a list of all the sources I looked at and then came back. So it saved me time of trawling through all of these to make me my new resources. If I want to, I can go straight into Rotorua Museum for Tarawera, Te Maunga Tapu, and have a look exactly at what that had for me. So that report now is available for me to export to docs. And then I can drop it into my classroom, I can share it with my students, whatever I want to do. I can also create a web page from this, an infographic, I can create a quiz, and I can create an audio overview from my deep research. And that is a brand new update right now. So deep research is your research assistant. It saves you trawling through the internet to find all that information. Canvas helps you to create things, either interactives or things like a blog post or a web page about something. So it'll create a whole web page for you, or a newsletter, or a blog. So Canvas will help you to create things. Canvas has the input on the left, the output on the right. Same as this here. The last really exciting thing to highlight is gems. Gems, I guess. Gems are your pre-created agents. So there are a whole lot of gems or agents that sit up here that are pre-created that you can already use, or you can create a new one. So the very first one I created was my cooking coach. You see there are a whole lot of other ones in here. The social studies planner, report writing helper, Google for Education security advisor. So this one is my security advisor. Hi, I'm just going to kick it off. And I'll have a little think about what its first steps are and hopefully come back with a little prompt for me. Now if I wanted to say how do I secure my email? Okay, so I'm going to do how do I secure my email? Now what I've done is I've pre-trained this on a whole lot of information around what you need to do to secure your email in your admin console. So here we go, it's showing me a whole lot of stuff I need to do and it's told me how to do it. So I've created that with a whole lot of background information that it's only going to look at that background information. Okay. Now if I go back to explore my gems, if I go to my security advisor, I click edit. Here are my instructions I have given it. Okay. Use this attached information. So the attached document down here. So I've put down 2 documents I want to reference. I've just added those with a plus. And then I've also done some information at these websites. That's all I've told it to do. And I've now created my own agent. So if I just copy these instructions, drop in a doc and send it to someone else at my school, they can do that as well. Or send it to a colleague at another school. They can create their own gem that does exactly the same thing. Gems are fantastic for repetitive tasks. So you're doing the same thing again and again and again. Pre-program it, preload all the information, and that gem is available for you to use. Okay, one last thing I highlighted, and that is Notebook LM. So if I jump really quickly into Notebook LM, this is what my notebook looks like. So I can create a new notebook. I have a bunch of different notebooks in here I'm going to look at. I'm going to jump into my inclusive education one around ADHD and learning strategies. On the left-hand side, I've added a website of information. So I've had a look at their website and make sure it is a good website to use. I drop it in here using that add button. And all I did was website. I could drop some PDFs in there. I could drop some Google Docs. I could drop some Google Slides. I could drop a deep research document in here if I wanted to as well. Now, in the centerpiece here, this is, if you think about it, this is my Gemini window where I'm going to ask some questions. Now, it is only going to answer questions based on what I put over here on the left-hand side. So you could put staff onboarding documents, your school handbook, you could put Board of Trustees reports. Really importantly, both this and Gemini are covered by the Google Terms of Service and have full data protection, so nothing goes anywhere. Nothing goes into the model to train it. Everything you put in here is yours. Now, if I really like what that question's come back, I go save to note. It appears over here on the right. So if we think about this in a student context, I could put, say, the Lord of the Flies learning guide in there, create some resources down here, grab those resources, copy them and send them out to a doc, for instance. I can also create an audio overview, so a podcast about this information. Now, in this case, it's about ADHD and learning strategies for educators. I would create that podcast, make it available to my team. They could listen to it before or after a PD around teaching ADHD students. And
welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into how ADHD can shape the learning experience for students.
Yeah, we've gathered quite a few.
So the hosts of the podcast will take you through information about that resource. Okay, if I want to, I can click the three dots, I can download that podcast. Now again, if I'm doing this with students, if there's my Lord of the Flies one, create some resources, create a podcast, download the podcast, I can put it all together on a Google site, and then my students can get to it like that, or however you share stuff with your students. Now obviously making a Google site, drop the podcast on there, drop all the resources in there, and you now have a multimodal way that students can interact with this information. So Notebook LM is an amazing tool. It is one of those ones that schools are loving to use because the information you put on the left is covered by your terms of service, is data protected and goes nowhere. And it means through the middle, you can ask it questions. You can use that as your source of information to learn. So lots of different ways to use Notebook LM, lots of great resources out there. So those are the things I had a look at in our workshops. Hopefully it helps you understand them well. If you've got any more questions, just do a quick Google search for them because there are heaps and heaps of information out there. And hopefully I'll see you at another one of the workshops real soon.